Hello, in this exercise we will have a look at how to define default values for your columns. Once you have defined your default value, you won't have to specify your column in the list of the fields used in insert statement. If you don't, then whenever a new row will be added to the dataset, a default value will be applied to that specific column. And this is how we do it. Before we start, we need to recreate our department table, because the way we have created it previously, it doesn't have any default value specified. Once again, we use drop table if exists, so this statement will drop department table if there is such a table in the database. Otherwise, it will do nothing. Afterwards, we are using create table statement here. So we are saying create table followed by the table name, which in our case is department. And then in the brackets, we are specifying the list of the fields. Department no is once again int and primary key. However, we have also applied auto increment to it. This means that we no longer have to specify value explicitly for it. If we don't, it will just start with 1. And then whenever we insert any new row into the dataset, the value for that row will be incremented. So for the second row, the value will be 2. For the third row, the value will be 3, and so on. Department name is once again varchar limited to 20 characters, and it doesn't allow any null values. Department log is once again varchar limited to 50 characters, but this time we are applying default value to it with default keyword, and default value for it will be nj. Department established date is a date time, and it defaults to now, which is the function built in MySQL, which returns the current date and time. So whenever we make an insertion, it is the time of the insert statement execution that will be inserted into this column. So by executing these statements, we have just recreated our department table. So there is a new table called department that is currently blank. And now we are inserting values into this table. Please know that we are literally just inserting the value in department name table and nothing else. And this is because every single other field has default value specified for it. If we execute this statement and then select data from our department table, this is the result that we have. So as you can see, the only value we have specified manually was my department for department name. Other than that, department number is 1, which is default first increment value if we are specifying auto increment clause. Department location is nj, which is the default for this field, and department established date is just the current date. However, there's more to learn about default values. So this is a statement that we can also execute, where we are specifying 2 fields rather than just 1. So to insert any more rows into our table, we will be using department name and department location. And here are the values that we are inserting. Administration and IT as department names. And in both of these cases, we are choosing to use default location. Essentially, when you are using default keyword in any of the values, what will be applied is the default value as defined in the table definition. If no default value has been explicitly defined, the value will be null, which will throw an error if the field doesn't allow any null values. Otherwise, it will be whatever value is defined as default. If I execute it, and then select data from our table, this is what you can see. So as I have mentioned previously, department number has been auto-incremented to 2 and 3. We have 2 new departments, administration and IT, and department location is nj in every single case, because this is what default value is. Default keyword is especially useful if it's used in separate fields, in separate sets of values. So for example, you can explicitly specify the name of a location in one value set and use default in another value set. And this concludes our lesson about default values in SQL tables.